Welcome back to Understanding Exceptional. I'm Dr. John, and today we're going to talk about what do we do and what can you do if your child is struggling with writing. So in the prior video, we talked about dysgraphia. Dysgraphia is a word that's used to describe a set of brain systems that develop or operate differently, not less than, different, and then result in the behaviors known as writing that operate and function differently now. And so what happens with dysgraphia, like any other condition or diagnosis or disorder, is it's a word that we use to make sure that individuals who have brains that do things differently have the right tools available to them. So this intervention, as with any intervention, does not get rid of the idea of effort. Effort is always a part of the equation that leads to success. So we want to do anything and everything to bring the right tools to the table that when an individual applies their effort, that they achieve levels of success through their writing behaviors that they desire and deserve. Because those who are diagnosed with dysgraphia have a profound incongruence between what they're thinking, what they want to articulate or express through writing, and what they're able to do so through the process of writing. So in order to bring the right tools, we got to understand the brain. And we talked about in the last section that one of the brain areas that often operates differently is the connections between the brain and the muscle systems, particularly the fine motor systems. So for many with dysgraphia, the manual process of writing is fatiguing, frustrating, aversive, painful even. I work with a lot of kids who end up shaking their hand during writing. That's something I always did. It was always very, very painful for me for a variety of reasons. So knowing that the manual processes, not the thinking processes behind writing, are frustrating or challenging, we can start to look at new tools. And this gets us into how do we intervene in the cases of dysgraphia. And as I talked about in the last video, in the video related to dyslexia and interventions, we have to keep in mind that interventions are nothing more than new tools so that when we apply effort, we get to levels of success we desire and deserve. And new tools does not mean less than. We're not lowering the bar. We're not eliminating the expectation or the requirement of effort. What we're doing is changing how the effort is applied so that we get outcomes that are more consistent with our thinking and our desire, so that when we put in the effort, we get the outcomes. And so for me, this part of the writing intervention, there is sometimes I get pushback from parents, but bear with me for a moment, because I believe that the best intervention for those with dysgraphia, in most cases, nothing is absolute, is to basically eliminate the pen and pencil. We need to get rid of it. Writing, as I mentioned in the last video, is not a manual process. It was back in the day when we created what writing meant. When you had an idea and you wanted to convey it, you had to put it onto a piece of paper so that someone else had access to it. But we no longer use those tools. And so this rigid adherence to writing is this really kind of baffles me clinically. Early ages, preschool, kindergarten, when we're writing letters and we're pairing those letters with sounds, and that's a helpful process. But thereafter, what you start to see in individuals that have been diagnosed with dysgraphia is their ideas are amazing, but they have to spend 3 times as long, 2 times as long to produce something that's not even close to their thinking. And that really is a result of the fact they have to do it this way. And by golly, that's the right way, because that's the way we created long ago. It's not the right way, and it's not what writing is. In my practice, when I present a report, I do none of this. If I had to write out my reports and present them to families, no one would ever show up at my office, because the first 3 reports that would have gone out would have been very evident that my writing is not fantastic. My spelling is right at that first grade level. I'm putting commas places no one's ever seen a comma. But writing is a process of thought presentation. So let's talk about how do we allow for thought presentation. So we know the manual pieces can be challenging. So in my view, if we're going to do any writing, maybe we copy one sentence, but we're getting rid of the pen and the pencil, and we're going to focus on the thoughts behind writing, because that's what writing is. So how do we do this? One of the other things we see with dysgraphia is sometimes generating and organizing the ideas is challenging. Putting them in an organized, sequential manner can be challenging. So we want to facilitate a process with effort where we can tap into someone's ideas. So here's how we do that. Just like with the reading intervention, I like to set up specific time parameters. I say 2 5-minute intervals This can be adjusted based on expectations in your home or age or whatever. But I am telling you right now, more is not better. Oftentimes less is more because we're not overwhelmed by the quantity of production. We're focused on the quality of our effort over this period of time that's tangible. We see a finish line. So in this writing intervention, let's do 2 5-minute intervals. We're literally going to use a timer so we can see the finish line. And we're going to define the expectations before we start. So we'll use a 10-year-old. And in this case, I'm setting a timer. We'll call him Johnny once again. I'm working with Johnny to generate ideas, help him to generate ideas. His thinking, never mine. So I'm going to set the timer and I'm going to say, Johnny, here's the expectations. You are going to be working with me. This is one of 2 5-minute writing intervals where you are going to work the brain systems related to writing, but we're going to do this together, and it doesn't mean this pen or this pencil. We're going to tap into those ideas. So I'm starting the timer, and during this time, I want you giving me powerful effort, ears open, mouth moving, eyes locked in. Let's do this together. So here we go, starting the timer. Johnny, I want to create a topic or a thesis sentence, depending on the age. We'll go with a topic sentence here. Here's why we want to create a topic sentence, because the topic sentence is going to help us to now produce the rest of our thinking. And you have amazing ideas, and I want to tap into it. So let's get that topic sentence down. So while we create our topic sentence, I am dad, I am mom, I am whomever, grandma, grandpa, I am going to be doing the writing while you're doing the thinking. So here we go. We know that our topic today is elephants. So I'm just going to put an EL for elephants, a little bullet point. I am writing this stuff. Now, Johnny, what I need from you is give me a feeling word, because we're building this topic sentence. We'll bring it all home here in a moment. What's a feeling word? So for example, elephants are boring or they're lame. I know you don't think that. So give me a feeling word. How do you feel about elephants? What do they make you feel? Well, they're amazing. That is a beautiful word. I'm going to jot down amazing. So hold on. We're still knocking this thing out here. I need 3 reasons. What have you learned that makes them amazing? How do you know they're amazing? If you were talking to somebody, what have you learned about elephants that make them amazing? Well, we talked about the fact that they're really smart because, hold on, smart. I'm going to write that down. We have 2 left. That is beautiful. 2 other things that make them amazing. Well, they said in the book they're the biggest animal on land. So I'm going to, hold on, Johnny, that's great. I'm going to put an up arrow, biggest on land. That is idea 2. I just need 1 more. Well, even though they're the biggest, remember there's, what was that word? They only eat plants. So now as a parent, a grandparent, a teacher, a brother, whomever, if you're facilitating this process, if you tell Johnny or you suggest, are you thinking herbivores? Is that the word? That's the word. That is still Johnny's thinking. I love that word. I'm going to write down herbivores or plant eaters. That is absolutely amazing. Great thinking. That is the word. Beautifully done. So let me summarize this topic sentence that you've created through your thinking, Johnny. You've told me that elephants are amazing animals because they are very smart, and although they're the largest animal on land, they only eat plants. And I'm going to put in parentheses that word herbivores. Were those your ideas? That is a beautiful topic sentence because you're telling people what you're writing about, elephants, what you think, they're amazing, and you're giving them 3 reasons why. They're smart, they are the largest on land, and they only eat plants. Absolutely beautiful. And so in that one sentence, if anyone reads that one sentence from you, they have set up for this beautiful paper. And we're now super organized. And so during our next 5-minute interval, we're going to fill out this outline. So keep in mind, I mentioned in the video on dyslexia, a lot of us that are a bit neurodivergent tend to be little mini attorneys. I'm not so many, but certainly more black and white in my thinking. And oftentimes these kiddos are contract attorneys. They want to know how long, what do you need from me? A lot of times, what's my reward? We'll talk about that in a moment, or what's the paycheck? And so if the 5-minute timer goes off and you push forward and say, you know what, we're almost done. You've violated the contract. It's 2 5-minute intervals. We'll get this done. but I'm just controlling this brain for 5 minutes. I'm giving you all the power I got. I need a break. So 5-minute interval, maybe a 5-minute break. And then now we're going to build that outline. And don't spend 9 hours on a graphic organizer that takes longer to complete than the paper itself. A very basic outline that you've already structured. So dipping back in after your break, set the timer. All right, you created a beautiful topic sentence. I wrote it here. Now, tomorrow, you're going to copy the topic sentence, and that will be your only manual writing. But today, we're going to focus on the outline. So I put elephants, I put amazing, I put smart. What are 2 things you've learned about them that make them smart? I need your ideas. We can work through this together. I'll bullet point them here. Well, they use simple tools and they live in families. Beautiful tools and families. I'm writing that down. All right, so now I need 2 things. How do you know they are large? What are 2 things you learned about that make them large? Well, the adult male stands this tall and a baby is born weighing this amount. Okay, boom and boom. Okay, we're there. We're almost done with this outline. What are 2 things that they eat? Well, they eat different, they eat the bark from this tree, they eat the nut from the, okay, great. Have them be as specific as possible. All right, my man. So we now have a beautiful outline here. We've got our topic sentence. We still have 3 minutes, so I think I might have you copy that, and then we're done with the manual parts of writing. And we have this beautiful outline where we go through the fact that they're amazing, they are smart, they are large, and they're herbivores, what they eat. So why don't you copy this? And now if the time runs out, they are done. So here's what we're doing in that scenario. We are not eliminating effort. The effort of engagement stays in this equation. It stays in the expectation column. Kids can't get, adolescents, young adults, we can't avoid effort. But if we can apply it differently to get to the outcomes we desire, we're there. And so effort was expected, and even facilitating the generation of ideas. If they're his ideas, her ideas, it's their thinking. And so now we're just structuring the way in which they manifest their thinking, and we're organizing their approach to completing this paper. And now when they go to type or dictate, they have a structure. Now, keep in mind, mom and dad, that grandma and grandpa, whomever is watching this, anyone applying the intervention, that this is an intervention that doesn't go away. So it's not a crutch. We're actually teaching them how to become amazing writers. And if they structure their approach, generate their ideas, what they're going to see is if I take the time to generate that topic or thesis sentence as I get older, take the time to do a basic outline. And now when I go to dictate or I go to type, the product is much more consistent with my line of thinking. So in other words, my effort during this short amount of time was equivalent to great levels of success that I desire and deserve. So effort hasn't been eliminated, but success has been enhanced. And then the reality is if they're typing or they're dictating, in my view, and again, people may disagree, comment if you disagree, ask questions, whatever it may be, but there are spell check and grammar check. And by the way, whenever I go through grammar check, spell check, I have to acknowledge through clicking on the word. There's ways to work around that now, but I still do this. I acknowledge through clicking on the word. It's green. That's a grammatical error. I see, oh my gosh, why did I put a comma there? Or I need this there. Or if it's red, I've misspelled it. Problem with my spelling is too often the software doesn't even recognize the word. It's like, what is this? It's just a mishmash of letters. I don't know. What was I thinking there? But the longer or the more important point here being that it's still learning opportunities. So you can't just click, edit all. Go through each one and see where the error occurs and what should go there. This is all creating learning opportunities. And what we've done now is if Johnny, let's say you wrote everything for him. We're not into typing or dictating yet. And you went through this process and you wrote manually all of his thinking. What he puts up on the bulletin board that he's so proud of, this amazing paper, that is his writing, period. It is his writing. It is not yours. It's his ideas. You just got him onto the paper. So he gets to put that up, be proud of what he's done, show other people who he is, where his amazing strengths are in his thinking and his capabilities. as opposed to he puts something up there that no one can read. There's red ink all over it. I'm used to that one. It is a total disaster. And he has to look at that and go, everyone's like, what? Who did you write that? As opposed to, did your mom write? Well, we go through this process where we work on it together. I give her all the ideas and she helps them get them out because my ideas are way faster than my fingers. So she just helps me put on my paper. That is 100% my writing. My mom did not come up with any of those ideas. Those are mine. And so now we're proud. So what we've done is we've brought an equivalence between the effort, expectation, and the desire to succeed and levels of success. Hugely powerful. For most individuals I've ever worked with, success is the most motivating factor in their lives. They want to make mom proud, dad proud, aunt and uncle proud, teacher proud, siblings proud, friends. I want to show you all I can do. So success is the best tool always. And if effort's an expectation, then our goal should be, how do we apply effort to get to success? We don't eliminate effort. We don't provide crutches. We bring an equivalence between effort and success. And if we do that, we're going to see great gains, motivation go up. Final part, as I mentioned with dyslexia, is if writing is naturally frustrating and just the word itself, we got to write, it just drops emotional weight on to kids, which it does a lot. Now we have to consider the motivating element of it. All right, it's 2 5-minute writing intervals, so it's just 5 minutes. I'm doing this part of it. And by the way, for every 5 minutes you give me here, you're banking 10 minutes towards your menu of things that you enjoy. So let's do this. Let's get through it. It's 10 minutes total. I want your effort. I want your ideas. Can't wait to tap into those. And by the way, there's a little paycheck waiting for you. I want you to have lots of time here because it means you gave me what I needed over here. So considering all of those things, all of these things are brain-based considerations. When we do it the right way, we bring the right tools in, we allow a balance to occur between desire, effort, intelligence, and success. And when you start to balance that out, you see behaviors change for the better. Final thing that always bears discussing is the idea that if you already have people in your life or clinicians or interventionists working on writing or teachers, and they have set formulas that are already working, always consult with individuals that are already working with your child before making any decisions regarding any type of intervention. As parents, you guys always know best, but certainly communicate with those that are already involved to figure out what is the best combination of interventions for your child. Because nothing I say today or at any point in these videos or across the community, nothing I say is absolute. And so always consider whatever variables may present. But I think at the end of the day, the most important takeaway is that if we bring an equivalence between our effort, our intelligence, and our desire for success, and we achieve success, we're creating human experiences and therefore behaviors that are much better for everyone that deserves that. So hopefully some of this was interesting and informative and intriguing. Hopefully you agreed with some of it. Maybe you disagreed. Either way, come join the community at Understanding Exceptional. Always comment. Let me know what you think. Give me questions. Certainly subscribe, and can't wait to see you on the next video.